And then you want to practice forgiveness, because quite often people get, they have this unforgiveness, they have this anger that this happened to my loved one, this happened to me, this happened to my wife. And we want to practice forgiveness, and we want to release that. So again, because unforgiveness gets bound in the body, it gets stored in the liver. And anger, that's where anger and unforgiveness go.
Welcome to OTR, Achieving Mental Health for Real. This is where we talk honestly about what people actually live with: anxiety, depression, ADHD, dyslexia, OCD, trauma, and more. No stigma, no sugarcoating, just real conversations about how you think, how you feel, and how you move through the world. If you're looking for clarity, validation, and a place where your story makes sense, you're in the right space. Let's get into it.
Today's guest is someone whose story reaches into the deepest places of grief and still finds a way to breathe life back into the room. Her name is Marcia Earhart, founder of the Sterling Rose Sanctuary, grief and trauma responder, HeartSync minister, mediator, author, speaker, and a woman whose faith has carried her through losses most of us can't imagine. Marcia has lived through the deaths of 2 sons, one to sudden tragedy, and one to murder, and somehow, through all of it, she learned how to keep breathing, keep moving, and keep living. Not by erasing the pain, but by walking with it. This is not a conversation about getting over it. This is a conversation about learning to breathe again, move again, and live again, even when the world has gone dark.
Now, here's Bob with today's show.
Hello, welcome to OTR, Marcia. How are you today?
I am doing fine. It's good to be here with you.
Could you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am a wife, a mom, daughter, friend, and they have been some of my greatest, I would say, places that I have been able to serve in my life. I am also a life, grief, trauma, brain, mental health coach, a mediator, a HeartSync minister, author, and speaker. And I am also the co-founder of the Sterling Rose Sanctuary, which is a nonprofit 501c3 to help people heal from trauma and grief so that they can breathe again, move again, and live again.
That sounds terrific. What I usually do is, the first question I usually ask is about childhood. It's a mental health podcast, so childhood is important. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your childhood?
Sure. I feel that, I had a very, I would say, balanced childhood. I mean, I think there's dysfunction in every home. I don't think mine was really any more dysfunctional than the other. And I learned a lot of tools within my growing up years. Both my parents were very gifted individuals, and I feel I got a great sense of who I am growing up. I knew my value. I knew my purpose. I was always encouraged to move in the directions of my God-given talents. My father had his own business and said, you're going to work the majority of your life. Whatever you do, you're going to do it the majority of your life. Make sure and do that which brings joy into your life. So I was so thankful for that. And, I had, 3 siblings. I'm the baby of the siblings. There was quite a gap, 8, 9, 12 years between me and my siblings. And, I grew up in the South. So, Southern comforts of just family and friends and community.
That sounds terrific. Thank you for all that information. My son is a head pastor for non-denominational in South Carolina.
Okay.
It kind of creates a conflict with me because
and what are you?
They don't. I'm agnostic, I guess you could call it.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I don't really believe in any specific religion or doctrine. So okay. I keep an open mind, but I don't believe in anything in particular, which is kind of some of my issues as well. Because I'm getting older now, so I'm a little bit, I'm having some problems with death in general. And so I know you deal with grief, and I am grieving over a friend of mine who just died, and he's my age. He was one of the kids I grew up with. I guess the question would be, as far as your tactics, when somebody loses someone, and I must say this first, Marcy has lost two sons, which is unimaginable to me. I don't think I could handle it. I almost know I couldn't. So I'm anxious to see how you went through your grieving process. But I don't, I'm having a lot of grief with this last loss, and I'm not all that good with grief, I guess is what I'm saying. So if you had to give your best advice for someone who's suffering with grief, what would you say?
Well, first of all, we're all going to grieve, and life is full of grief. It's a matter of how you have engaged with. Grief is a teacher. And if you have not entered into grief and you've had loss, then I would say that you've kept yourself in a state of adolescence, because it's part of life. It's whether it's loss of a house, loss of our health, loss of dreams, loss of our career, loss of a life treasured to us. It can be a friendship. And so we have to enter those places, and we have to be intentional. If you're not intentional to enter in the state of where grief is, what happens is it goes into your physical body, and it ends up causing pain. It ends up causing illness. And that's not what you want. And because the body actually holds the negative emotions within it. So we have to be realistic. We have to address what it is we've lost. And then we need to walk in that and start releasing those negative emotions. But in that releasing, it's also receiving the lessons that we have in that grief, that all of us are going to die. All of us. However, when we don't have that place of trusting, I think grief can take us, the spirit of grief can come in and take us into the pit. And it can consume us. And it would be, to me, my analogy is like living in quicksand. We feel like we're just going deeper and deeper and no way out.
Wow. Yeah, I guess my issue is that, how do we, if we are non-religious, and we're not looking to become religious, how would we handle a death or a loss versus someone that?
Well, first of all, get a gratitude journal. You need to get a journal, and you need to start writing down the things you're thankful for. Your friend passed, and you need to write down the years that you were able to be friends, and you write down all the treasures that came from that friendship, and you start focusing on the beauty instead of the death. You focus on what was deposited. Your friend's death does not define the relationship you had with your friend. That was something that happened. But all the years that led up to this, there are other multitude of memories and experiences that you had that were wonderful, right?
Yes, very much so.
So you focus on, you get that journal and you start writing it down. And anytime a negative thought comes up, you replace it with what is true. You know what? We had a really good friendship. We got to do this. This is not defining my relationship with my friend. And you turn it back onto what is good. You get outside. And these are things we tell all people that come here. Get outside, go walking, get in nature. Nature is resetting you, because there are things that are living out there. We need to be out breathing in fresh air, walking, releasing the grief that's within our lungs. And so because the lungs is where grief gets housed. And that's why many people quite often they're very clouded and they're having a really hard time with their memory because they're not getting the oxygen into their body that is necessary for them to operate fully. So we want you to get outside and walk and do some breathing exercises, inhale. And what I tell my clients, inhale life and exhale any toxic thought, toxic emotion. If you're feeling angry, sad, displaced, release it and watch it leave. Release it. Just exhale it out and then breathe in a replacement of the life in that place, joy. Breathe in the sustenance of life itself. And so they're practical things that you can do. It is so important that we engage in our grief. And for you, it may be that listening to music could really minister to you. So find music, sit down and really allow yourself to grieve that loss. I'm not telling you to push it away. I'm telling you to release it out. And you have to personalize your own mourning experiences. There's a difference in grieving and mourning. Mourning is actually getting what is inside of our grief to the outside. So, you want to make sure that you have safe people that you can talk to about your grief story. And that's essential. But you also want to make sure that the grief story does not consume your life and the relationships with the other people you're with. Because quite often that can happen. So you want to create healing conversations. And by that, I'd love to share something really amazing about my friend. Does that make sense? And then you want to practice forgiveness because quite often people get, they have this unforgiveness. They have this anger that this happened to my loved one. This happened to me. This happened to my life. And we want to practice forgiveness. And we want to release that. So again, because unforgiveness gets bound in the body, it gets stored in the liver. And anger, that's where anger and unforgiveness go. So it's not uncommon for people to come to me and they start telling me their physical problems. They're like, yeah, my liver numbers are high and I've never had liver issues. Just talked to a lady yesterday and I was talking through this stuff and she went, wow, I didn't know that. She said, and she had unforgiveness and some anger. And so you need to make sure you're changing your environment. If you're in a place that triggers you, you want to get out. You want to go to a new place so that you can process and you're not inundated by the triggers that would surround you.
That's great advice. How long do you think, every death is different. I think a loss of a child would really be a long time going through that kind of grief. And then you have the holidays. How do we get past that? Does it take?
You're never going to. Well, you don't get past, you go through. And I need to say all people can heal from grief. Everyone can heal from all grief. We don't have grief that we're never going to heal from. It's a choice. I choose whether I heal. I choose whether I don't. And some people feel like, oh, well, if I heal, then I have forgotten about them and I'm carrying this with me. No. I carry my sons with me into my present day and into my future, but that is not defining my life. I'm here to live as God created me, to live out of the talents and the gifts and the treasures that I have. I'm not that person or persons that I was with each son. That person will never exist again because my sons are not here. So I too had to give myself permission. That's the other thing. You have to give yourself permission to grieve. And some people need to say it out loud. I'm giving myself permission to grieve. and then start the process. But I had to also give myself permission, and our family gave ourselves permission to grieve to the death of our family as it was, and the death of each of us as it was, and our interaction with the way we would no longer be with the absence of each of our sons. So and I think some people get stuck in that fact of, I'll never, I'll always. No. And whether you are a believer or not, Jesus came to heal all people. All. So healing is for all. He didn't say only for the believer. He said healing, I came to heal all, so that you can live, and live not just somehow, but abundantly.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Tell us a little bit about your sanctuary work. What exactly do you do for people in that environment?
I work with them just like what we're talking about. They come in, believer, non-believer. They've had a significant loss. I work with people that have been in sexual ritual abuse, that have been sexually abused. I work with people who have lost, their health, people who have lost their finances, their dreams. They've lost family members, mom, dad, siblings, child. They've lost pet. That was, the only one that was really left around them. And, they've lost their community. So I work with people just like what we were talking about. And as a HeartSync minister, I actually take them into we do a modality where we do that releasing, and it's kind of that exchange. I'm bringing my anger. What can I walk away with instead of being angry anymore? What would life look like if I no longer hold on and release it? And then you exchange, and you would get that I'm going to live in peace. And so, and I ask if I can pray, and I have never had anyone who's not a believer be okay for me to pray over them, because they really do experience healing in the session or sessions that we have. And we work with people all over the United States and now in 7 countries.
Terrific. If there's a person like myself, how do people like that? I know you go through the church, but how do people like me get in contact with you? I
actually don't go through the church. The nonprofit is online, and really we're not affiliated with any church. We go to church, and our church is very supportive of what we do. And we have churches that know what we do and send people, but we're not affiliated with that. Anyone can come to us. They can go online to the Sterling Rose Sanctuary, and they can, it's .us, and they can go on and they can sign up for a form. They are to meet with us, and we'll call them and we'll set up an appointment. And people find us online. So, a lot of it's by word of mouth. It's, someone has experienced and they've shared with someone else. And I think it just kind of spreads based on the outcome, and we've had such success and such great outcome. I've had people that have been to so many different places to be healed, and they kind of land here and they're just like, this is kind of my last hope. And praise God, because in the last hope, he does show up and they receive the healing that they need.
Right. So if I wanted to get your help, I would just go online. What is the website name?
It's www.thesternlingrosesanctuary.us. And it says a heart healing form. You fill out a heart healing form, and you put your information in there and send it in submission, and it should come through to the sanctuary. Or you can just go, it says, contact us. It's not the form. It's just contact us, and you can reach out and say, I want to, meet with you, and we can set that up. And then if you haven't filled the form out, I get you to do that beforehand.
Okay. That's excellent. Now, one of my issues, and this is going away from talking about grief, but, is trying to establish a relationship with my children who are all in this one church.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit isolated from them. I don't know what to do to make it better, because they're very involved in what they're doing in the church, and they look at me and they say, "Well, why don't you believe?" And why? But this is for me, and maybe for other people within families. It's a big issue as far as trying to integrate myself into their lives. What would you recommend I do?
Well, no, but I want to ask you something. What does that look like for you that you feel isolated from them?
Well, I think they tend to do all their functions and whatever they do with people from the church. And I think they look at me and they say, you're okay, Dad, but basically we have other people to talk to. We have we have our own life, I guess you could say. But I do have a problem, getting along, having them call me once in a while. I don't know if it's related to the fact that they're in the church, but it's a real dilemma for me, and maybe for other people.
Well, I think, have you had these conversations? Have you sat down and said, is the reason we're not able to spend time due to the fact that, you don't want to do things because I'm not a believer? Or is it just that your lives are busy and that you have, because I think, first of all, we have to clarify through communication if what you're really perceiving is true. Because if your children are older, if they're, they're
in their 40s.
Okay, well, they have children probably and doing life.
Mm-hmm.
That they're busy. And it doesn't necessarily mean they don't love you and that you're not wanted in their life, but they have left and cleaved to their families. Now, are you around them like for birthdays and holidays and special events?
That's the problem. I'm in New Jersey and they're in South Carolina. So that's a big issue. But I guess I'm just saying, couldn't they call me more? Couldn't they care more, maybe?
But have you said to them, right now in my life, I really would appreciate if you guys would call me more. I don't want to put any pressure on you, but, maybe, how often do they call you right now?
Maybe once every 2 months at the most.
Well, just say, could we maybe and I would do it with each child differently. I would ask one child, hey, could we kind of get on, a phone call once every other week? And then the other child that next week. How many children do you have?
I have 3, 2 boys and a girl. My girl has a lot of problems with me other than, church related. That's another huge issue for me is pretty much every night that I go to bed, I have thoughts about her and why she doesn't want to contact me. So, again, I don't know if this is an area that you do go into, but I just wanted to ask you about it.
Well, I do. That's part of my background, working with relationships that are strained or failed. There are two sides. So if I'm working with you, my job is to help you bring resolution to where you are and to look at, are there other reasons why this may be existing? And we have to address that in reality. What caused the estrangement? What kind of relationship did you have with your children prior to?
That's the difference. I had a great relationship as far as I was concerned. We did a lot of things together when they were even young adults. I'd go over their house for weekends and almost every month. That's a big shock because it went from that to this. And I'm not exactly sure why. I mean, they say that I was too hard to handle once I retired, and I don't know. But this is the thing that...
So, okay, but when they said that, did you ask the question, what does that mean? Because here's something that I have noticed about my generation. They're very consumed with their children and their grandchildren, and they expect their children and their grandchildren to fill this enormous void in their life. My parents did not expect me to fill a void in their life. My parents did things. They had volunteer stuff they were doing. They were working. They had friends. I never felt a pressure from my parents that I needed to be doing certain things with them at certain times in my life. And I see my generation that some of them are absolutely undone and like curled up, with, crying over the fact that their children and their grandchildren are not in their lives, one, the way they may want or at all. And so I think, and not that there are reasons why things happen, but my life, I love my children. I love them, but my children are not here for me.
Right.
My children are here to live their lives and to live out their callings. And again, I have a child who I don't really see him. I haven't seen him in 6 years.
Wow.
And he'll pop up every now and then, and say, "Hey, Mom, how are you?" But it's his choice. There's not anything that has happened that's keeping us estranged. It's his choice. It's his life choices. And I love him and I respect that. And so I think we have to come and, we've made sure, is there anything wrong? No, there's nothing wrong. So we ask the questions. We have to ask those questions. Is there something we need to bring resolution to? And then to bring resolution. And sometimes we can do that because there's willingness. And sometimes we cannot do that because the other party is not willing to do it. And so all you can do is own who you are, own yourself in the midst of this, and not let this situation rob you of living a full life. And I think that, if for me, because I ask questions, I would ask my children one at a time, "Hey, I'd really love to have a conversation with you. I'm not wanting to put any pressure on you. What could I do differently as a dad to be more involved in your lives?" Therefore, the expectation is not on them. You're asking, how can I be better? Because I really would love to have more involvement. Are you understanding this?
Yeah. I have said, please call more often, and they'll say something like, you should call. So I have had this discussions, but what happened to me is it was just the shock of thinking I had a great relationship with them to no relationship with my daughter and very little relationship with my sons. I guess it's my problem. It definitely is my problem because they have their prerogative. I mean, they don't have to include me in their lives if they don't want. So I guess.
Yeah, but it's a loss that you're experiencing.
Yes.
And that's what we're dealing with here. And there's a loss in each one of those relationships.
Definitely.
And so that's what we want to address, because I'm not talking to them, but I'm talking to you. So we would start dealing with, how do you deal with the losses that you're feeling and the lack of relationship being where you would like it to be with your children?
Yeah. Well, for me, the way I deal with it is just do busy work, just do more things so I don't think about it. Because when I hit the pillow at night, that's all I think about. And
well, exactly. So, but that means you're not dealing with it. You're not coping with it with appropriate tools. It's being bound up in your body because now it's causing you to lay there at night and think about it, right?
Yeah. So my question is, what do I do? I mean, I don't.
You start working on you. You would need to fill out a form and let's start working on you, because you can't change who they are. If they are open to conversation, then that's great, but they may not be. And I think that's the other side of it, where you have to go, but I need to do me. I've got to be able to work on me and be at peace with this. And you can walk out being a better person in this.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a way to, I guess, not control, but find out why it hurts so much. I guess that's what I'm looking for.
Well, it hurts because they're people you love. They're people that you've invested in. The hurt is there because these are, you want the reciprocity of what you feel that has been put within the relationship through the years. And we come to different seasons of life, and some seasons we can give more than others, but they're at a point they're not able to give as much as you need right now, and you're in a place where you need more.
Mm-hmm.
And I would ask you, do you volunteer? Do you do anything to volunteer in your community?
I'm kind of disabled, and I don't get around much outside, so that's a little bit limiting. I consider this podcast my volunteering, to try to help people get through their issues, mental health issues. I don't know how to change that right now. If I recover more, because I had some serious oxygen saturation problems, if I recover more and my body feels right, then I'll try to go. I'll actually try to go visit them. So that's one thing I'm kind of looking forward to. I hope that happens. But nothing's guaranteed. But yeah. Okay. I mean, this is a time in the podcast where I ask my guests to have the final word if they like. Would you like to say something here at the end that maybe I didn't cover or I covered badly?
Well, I do have a book for people that are grieving called Gripping Grace in the Garden of Grief. And it really does help people. It's a very raw, vulnerable perspective of my own grief. And it really gives things introspectively for individuals to look at in their own lives. And I think that it's important for all people to get healing one way or the other. And, whether it's relationships that you're grieving, because this has been a great example that yes, one is going to grieve relationships, because they don't look the way that ideally you would like for them to look right now. And you're not receiving the benefits that you would like. And it's not bothering them, it's bothering you. So, we have to, identify those things. And I want people to be encouraged that in and through the process, they will be able to breathe again, move again, and live again victoriously through those things. Yeah. And I don't want them to stop where they are and just give up. I want them to pursue life.
Yes. Yes. I think you're a wonderful person. You seem to be you're an example for how to deal with grief. I'm just glad that I got you on the show. You've been very patient with me. I had some technical problems. I thank you for that. And I thank you for the work that you do, because people do need this kind of work. People grieve, and holidays become a tough thing. I know my sister lost her husband, and she has a tough time during the holidays. But I just want to thank you for what you do and for coming on the show and let us hear a little bit of more knowledge of how we can grieve.
Yes. Well, and I just want to encourage you to get the resources for yourself and to also have community, and to find, even if you're home, you need to find a healthy community and look in your area to see if there are places where people with disabilities can meet and get together for encouragement to each other.
Yeah, that would be good. That's a good idea. I'll try to pursue that. And is there anything else?
I think, follow up and let's do some healing for you, because you've got a multitude of losses right now. And in order for you in your mental and physical body, you need to release some of this stuff.
Yeah. Cause I'm pre-grieving my death. And that's the other big thing. I don't know how to handle the end of life.
Well, I would love for us to work through that.
Yeah,
I would love for you to go on my website and I think we need to start discussing that.
I'll look into it. I appreciate your help, and just have a wonderful day. Like my son would say, have a blessed day, and keep doing it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me on this, and I look forward to following up. You better do that.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot. Okay. Have a good day.
Yes. And do you mind if I just pray for you and your family?
Go ahead.
Well, Father God, I just thank you so much for Robert. I thank you, Father, for just his life. I thank you for just his heart. And Lord, you are the one who comes close to the brokenhearted. And he's brokenhearted, Lord, and you see it. So I would just pray that you would just come close to him and just comfort him in his time of deep loss of his dear friend and his loss of the relationship with his children and having access and feeling included. It's so painful, Lord, when we are left out and we're not in the places that we thought we would be. And so I just ask that you would be gracious to redeem in this family relationships. You would restore, that there would be conversations of healing, and from that there would be new life for this precious family. And I just ask, Lord, that you would continue to show him that you are around him, even if he can't see and feel and doesn't really have that belief, but that you're cheering him on and that you're never going to leave or forsake him. And I just thank you and ask all this in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for that. It almost brought me to tears. It was beautiful. And you're a beautiful person, and keep doing it and keep helping people, because we need help.
Well, I appreciate it. And like I said, I expect to hear from you now.
Okay. Thank you very much. Take care.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.